Thank you for auditing the always positive new music review show hosted by a French professor who wasn't going to do a video this weekend. My brother is visiting from California, but he's actually visiting my other brother. So this gives me just a short period of time to talk to you about the new Viagra Boys album, Cave World. I really want to talk about this album. It's interesting because when I saw they released another album, I thought, well, I'm not going to have anything to say about this. I mean, I reviewed their last album. As you can tell, I got the merch from the last album, Welfare Jazz. But this album, Cave World, is 10 times the album of Welfare Jazz. It is such a more enjoyable listen. It is so much more ambitious in its scope. It's so much more agreeable in its production. I like their last album, obviously. But wow, did they make a big step up. Now, part of what I found difficult with Welfare Jazz, with this album here, and with the band in general, is that I can never quite figure out what they're saying. Unfortunately, in that year, I've taken some time to study irony as it exists today on the internet. And on my secondary channel, I did a video about the YouTuber called JReg. I'll include a link to that video up there. Now, he deals in what is called meta-irony. And for the purposes of this video, what's important about meta-irony is that people speak in such a way that it's never clear what they actually believe. So to go back to Welfare Jazz, a very meta-ironic album, it's never quite clear if the lead singer really is this kind of sleazy dirtbag rocker guy who's like a throwback to the 70s, like doing drugs and womanizing, or if it's a meta-ironic commentary on that kind of person, or most likely both. He is both commenting on the thing while being the thing, which is a very meta-ironic place to be. The reason that I wanted to review this album is that it is not just a rehash of the meta-irony that we see on Jazz Welfare. It is a development of it. And it is a lot less like their last album, and a lot more like my personal favorite example of meta-irony, DEVO, one of my absolute favorite bands. They are just known for one song, but they should be known by all lovers of punk music and post-punk music and electronic dance music and American music, okay? A very underrated and great band. And much like Viagra Boys, it wasn't always clear where they were coming from. Were they talking about this new future in a way that was ironic, saying that it was going to be bad? Are they talking about this new future in a way that was actually saying it's good? It was very unclear what their status was, like what they were actually thinking. What are they actually trying to say when they call themselves, for example, the New Traditionalists? In some ways, they were just a simple punk band who played 3-4 chord progressions, but then added electronic stuff into it. And it's a very fascinating band. But it's not just this meta-ironic register that draws these two unlikely groups together. That, a Swedish post-punk band in 2022 reminding me of a Cleveland, Ohio post-punk band from the late 70s and early 1980s. It's actually in the thematics of this new album, Cave World. This is a DEVO album in its mindset. You see, DEVO itself stands for de-evolution. The theory that DEVO had, all the way back in the 70s and 80s, is that human beings did not evolve from apes. We devolved from apes. And all of the cruelty and stupidity that is seen in the 20th century is evidence of our new bad state. That we reached some kind of height as chimps and apes. So this album, Cave World by Viagra Boys, is updating this position from DEVO. Because in the interim, between the 80s and the 2020s, a whole bunch of idiots have showed up. Bunch of silly heads, okay? A bunch of silly heads have showed up and taken the idea of de-evolution and tied it in to themes of degeneracy. I use that word on purpose. Matter of fact, I might use the word in German. It's one of the few words I know in German. Entarté. Degeneracy is a theme of society in decline. It was used by the Nazis as a reason to exclude and murder minorities and to minimize cultures that were not seen as Germanic or not seen as classical or Western. And we're seeing it now in especially the right-wing sphere, the right-wing internet sphere. This theme of degeneracy, this theme that we are all devolving. At the same time that this is happening, there's a whole new school of thought that thinks that humans have devolved. But the way that we've devolved is not that we invented the nuclear bomb, is not that we invented redlining and Ronald Reagan. The reason that we've devolved is because we don't possess the same pseudoscientific, we don't use the pseudoscientific lens of evolution and understand that no longer are we like our primate ancestors, where the males of the species are trying to procreate, and where there's a certain, this whole pseudoscience of evolutionary psychology that has been abused and co-opted by figures who just want to instill fascism. All right? That's the point. The point of saying, things were better back when we followed the law of nature, and now we have all these woke people and all these people fighting for equal rights. And there were no pronouns in prehistory, whatever kind of weird things you might have heard, read, or seen on the internet. The theme of de-evolution has really been co-opted. So what the Viagra Boys are doing is they are meta-ironically putting out an album mostly about de-evolution. It is both putting forth the idea that we have devolved in a way similar that Devo did, saying that our current state is in a state of decline because of our cruelty and stupidity, and it comments on the men, and we are talking about men here, this is very toxically masculine thinking, who believe in a world order that is dominated by strength and masculinity, and is also explaining these men's perspective. These men who believe that our society has degenerated and that we need to get back to a state of nature where only the strong survive and where they presume that they are the strong people. This album is so awesome. It is so of its time because we need this. And it's on the nose, okay? This is not subtlety. This is not a subtle album. This is going straight after people. This is talking about school shooters. This is talking about small-minded trolls on the internet. It's talking about the things you actually see, but we need this, okay? There's not enough people actually talking about what's actually happening right now because it's too passé. I love you, Tom York, but maybe if you were a little bit more direct in your lyrics in the 90s and the 2000s and everything wasn't spoken in some kind of weird, cryptic, half cliche, your work would have done more good, okay? So it's this theme of de-evolution, in particular the de-evolution that is feared and seen in a certain kind of masculinity. This album is partly about a crisis of masculinity, of small men who in the past were made to feel big through their privilege, through inequities, through societal gifts and privilege, racism, classism, etc. These small men who used to have the gift of believing that they were big when they were small, now have to confront their smallness. And what do you do when you are a man who believes in rigid social hierarchies and that you should be at the top of a social hierarchy, that you should not be small? What do you do when you realize that you should not be small, that you should not be small? You say you are big and you lash out at that society. That's what this album is about. My Viagra Boys have become Viagra men with this album. Okay, Jesus Christ. As I like to say, I don't edit my videos, so sometimes I come up with little quips like that. If you read my notes, you can pause it. I don't say Viagra Boys have become Viagra men. That is a terrible joke. I can't take it out. I'm stuck with it. Smash the like bucket if you think that joke is bad or if it's good. Please subscribe to my channel. Join my subreddit. Not much has been going on over there. You can join my Instagram. Don't go on my TikTok. My nephew's in town. He's teaching me how to use TikTok. Maybe I'll be able to figure that out. So let's wrap this all up with an example song. Well, not wrap it up, but let's condense the themes of this album with an example song. My favorite song on the album, Troglodyte. Click on the banana to hear it up there. Banana. Monkeys. It's all thematic. Now, if you don't know, Troglodyte is an insult that's often given to people saying that they're unintelligent, but it comes from the idea of cave dweller. And that's really the theme that we're getting to this album, that people are calling back to a time, with our paleo diets and our belief in the sort of primal masculinity that we have lost touch with because we're so effeminate, because we have electric cars, or because we have appliances, or because, well, at least we used to have equal rights. That those things are weakening us. And so we like to imagine ourselves as being, or small men, like to imagine themselves as hearkening back to a long line of lineage that goes back to Charlemagne and goes back even further to the savannas, where they were proudly hunting and killing all of the zebras to eat for their family. What the Viagra men are telling us is that that's not the case. You think you were this glorious monkey. You weren't. You were a cave dweller. You were sitting in your little cave 1,000,000 years ago on your little Flintstones computer, typing about what a tough man you were, about how tough you were, when in reality, you were just another one of those small men. Now, the reason that all of this Devo stuff came to me is because Viagra Boys, I was at the gym when I was listening to this album, and while I was listening to this album, the Viagra Boys appeared in the gym and told me, "Hey, Skye, this album is about Devo. You know that from listening to this song?" Okay, they didn't actually do that, but that was a damn good Swedish accent. There is a part of this song that is directly lifted from the song The Girl You Want. She's just a girl, girl you want. It is absolutely a very clear, is a clear message, as clear as you could possibly be, that this album, or at least this song, and definitely I would say the rest of this album, is about this relationship to Devo. Even the drums in the beginning remind me of Devo. The slight detuned guitar, which reminds me of the avant-garde spirit of Devo. The way he's singing reminds me of Devo's singing. The slight little flute sounds, but mostly it is the form of post-punk that Devo embodied. The sadly underestimated Devo. They started off as a punk band, and if you've never heard their stuff, Rykodisc put out a collection of their early punk years before they started using synthesizers. It is as good punk music as you will ever hear. But then they integrated in the keyboards. So they managed to be this great keyboard band and this great guitar band. And hey, have you listened to this album, the Viagra Boys album, a couple times? Do you hear what I'm saying? Great keyboard work matched with amazing guitar work with a post-punk and punk aesthetic. It applies to both. Lyrically, it's about a guy who's at work, at a computer, but he's going to go home and get his gun, and he's going to be a spree shooter. Hey, we need more songs about spree shooters. You know why? Because there's more of them, and there's more of them, and they keep showing up, and they're everywhere, and they're all the time. This song is almost, reminds me a little bit of this Gaspar Noé movie, Saut contre tous. I think it's called One Against All. I don't know what they called it in English. But it's an interior monologue of like the super racist guy. And this whole album, this whole song is an interior monologue of this shooter who's talking about how he's feeling strong, how he wants to be strong. So it starts off with this verse about how he's going to get a gun and how he's going to kill people, and then there's that little "One You Want" Devo instrumental break, and then the second verse talks about fighting as a monkey, that if he was a monkey and if the world were fair and everything was even, then he as the ultimate primate would be the person who would do it. But then he's informed in the chorus, "You ain't an ape, you're a troglodyte." Troglodyte, very overpronounced. Awesome post-chorus with a synthesizer lead in there. Again, this guitar and synthesizer interaction is very Devo-like. The third verse talks about how this person doesn't believe in science. This is one of the themes of this character, this cave dweller who dominates this album, this troglodyte who dominates this album. And then again, the lead singer informs him that not only is he just a troglodyte, but if he did go and fight the other apes, he would get beat down. Because the people who act as though they are the alphas, as though they are the primary people who would be in charge and beating people down, are in reality just small men who have to talk about feeling that way. It's just the same way that the smartest people are the people who don't tell you how smart they are, right? That's how I know. That's how I know that I'm like not the smartest person I know, because I talk about how smart I am all the time. I'm insecure. I feel like a small man, you know? Can't help it. Beautiful instrumental outro, like laughing and flutes and guitars are layered everywhere. And this is definitely going to be in the running for one of the best songs of the year. This album might end up being runner, for best album of the year. It's funny because I bought Welfare Jazz, but I never listened to it because I just don't like it. I mean, I like it, but there's so much other music to listen to. But I cannot wait to buy this album and listen to it. So let me go through the rest of the album a little bit quicker. Starts off with the song Baby Criminal. Cool kind of like rat-a-tat snare hits to start, a lot of horns. Welfare Jazz had a lot of horns. There's some horns in this album. It feels like this first song is actually more of a carryover from Welfare Jazz. Nice, angry and dirty sounds. This whole song actually reminds me a lot of the title track from this album, Excitable Boy by Warren Zevon. A beautiful song all about like an excitable boy, and they all said, and he took little Susie to the senior prom, excitable boy, they all said. Then he cooked her and ate her and took her home. Then he raped her and killed her and took her home, excitable boy, they all said. Anyways, it's the whole story about like a psychopath murderer sung in kind of a funny way. This song seems to be about that, about bad boy Jimmy. But I love the production on this, these blown out drums, this wild like double guitar solo that sounds like a siren. Just great energy. Just awesome energy. And the whole idea, used to be a baby and now you're a criminal, the correlation between innocence and age. Maybe this is even tied into maybe sort of a de-evolution thing. It's just great. Like I was working out and this really helped keep my energy up. I was a little bit deflated because I was watching Wimbledon. And, my wife is Serbian, so she hates Djokovic because he's a nationalist pig. And he won Wimbledon again. But what are you going to do? Besides hope that he turns his ankle. Anti-vaxxer, fascist. Anyways, this song I would say too is sort of in that meta-ironic area. Like where it's not quite clear exactly what he's saying about this person, what their relationship is to society. I mean, frankly, I think Warren Zevon is a pretty good comp, now that I'm thinking about it, as another great meta-ironic singer. Someone where you don't always know what does he actually believe. Next song is called Cave Hole, which has these animal sounds. I want to give them credit. There's one particular animal sound that is a chimpanzee sound, which is the standard one that you find when you look up chimpanzee sound effect. And I can hear it every single time. I've used it in songs that I've made. And so the fact that they used a different like ape sound made me very happy. But this is just one of these instrumental intros that leads into Troglodyte, the Troglodyte coming out of that cave hole. Then the next song is Punk Rock Loser. This is another song that really probably fits more in line with Jazz Welfare because it's a meta-ironic song about him being a loser. Like it seems like he's singing about someone who is a loser and then singing about himself being a loser. I think it's important that it's here, though, because Troglodyte is a very preachy song about this person being a loser and a keyboard warrior and a jackboot fascist, whatever. Not a jackboot fascist, but like a boot-up fascist. I don't know. But here, he's turning the focus of analysis and character destruction, and he's turning his lucid eye at the mirror as opposed to outward. So I think it's very useful. Because the whole song is him saying, I'm not a punk rock loser, I'm savage, I'm cool, but it's very clear that this is meta-ironic. He is a punk rock loser. He's just, it's cool that more detuned sounds, the drums almost sound like they're having trouble finding, like being able to play along. This song is like a meta-ironic version of Bad to the Bone. He's singing about what a bad boy he is, but the truth is he's just an egocentric a-hole. And we don't know if this is a song where he is genuinely saying this to someone, like, don't be with me, I'm drinking lean, and I'm a jerk. Or if he's like trying to change, or if he's commenting on people who are like that. We don't know what he's really saying. Next song is called Creepy Crawlers. I love Troglodyte, but this might be my favorite song. It's the most stylistically adventurous. It opens with just like this raspy growl. It's funny because his first language isn't English. You know, whenever someone sings in a language that isn't their first language, it's always a form of performance, right? Makes sense, right? Because you're like, if you're not bilingual, you don't know this, but whenever you speak another language, you're performing. Like, there's the French version of me. Now, if you get to be totally fluent, okay, like totally fluent, like my wife is totally fluent in English, my friend Aaron is totally fluent in French, like, you can actually transmit your entire personality in a different language, but in general, there's a performance. So it feels to me, and this is part of that ironic question of what is sincere and what is not sincere, the way that he sings sometimes sounds like a Tom Waits impersonator at times, but not really in a bad way. But this whole song is just great. It's just going through a whole bunch of conspiracy theories. This whole album is attacking conspiracy theories and spree shooters and toxically masculine men. And again, I don't care if it's on the nose, you need to write more stuff about it. And you need to be more direct about it, because we need to have more people fighting against this, especially a hard rock and roll band, you know, because hard rock and roll tends to be the domain of those kinds of people who talk about how things used to be good back when music was good, back before disco ruined it, or whatever they say. So we have this whole anti-vaccine thing, a whole thing about adrenochrome and drinking blood, and it's so experimental, it's barely even a song at points. It's like an 80s soundtrack with this weird rhythm and these rolling synthesizers and these beautiful saxophones. Just a great song. Next song is called The Cognitive Trade-Off Hypothesis, which follows somewhat stylistically from the last song. Nice kind of like echoey synthesizers, a little bit more space, and then there's more of this theme of what this evolutionary psychology question of what were humans like, what was the development of humans. Now, I've spoken about my wife a couple times for good reason. The most important reason is because she is very smart, and she is a scientist. So she always wants me to understand that evolutionary psychology is mostly bullish. It's mostly crap. It's mostly bunk. It's mostly hogswaddle. Okay? Tell me what else it is mostly, and find the oldest possible way of saying something is BS. Put that in the comments. Evolutionary psychology, it's just not backed up by science. But as she says, that doesn't mean it doesn't have its use. And especially for an artist, it can be an interesting idea. So this is the lead singer, the songwriter, the lyric writer of Viagra Boys. I forget his name. I apologize. It's something oddly non-Swedish sounding. And you can tell me. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe he's not even Swedish. I'm not sure. I don't look up about the bands. Like, that's just not my thing. I find it more interesting just to experience the music. So I remember them as being Swedish, and I believe the lead singer is Swedish as well, but maybe he's bicultural. I don't know. Anyways, this is what he says. When the chimpanzees moved from the trees down to the savannah, they suddenly developed a need to communicate with each other. Like, there's a lion over there, maybe don't go over there. So they developed the ability to speak. So before they used to be able to count predators, but now they developed to be able to speak. The theory is that we traded our ability to count things really fast, really good short-term memories, for long-term memories. And the idea is that's what effed us. Long-term memories gave us the ability to plan murder and ish like that. Monkeys don't think about that. They live in the now. Okay, so first of all, this is probably all just gobbledygook because evolutionary psychology is mostly hogwash, okay? But it's interesting in the context of this album. Because here he appears to be making an actual... This is what I'm talking about, why it's hard to figure out what is his perspective, because he's attacking the cave dwellers for having this fanciful version of evolutionary psychology that would put them in the role of a sort of heroic ape in the past. But now here, he's going back and he's actually sort of glamorizing the apes before they came down from the trees. So it's really meta-ironic because is this album in favor of or against BS evolutionary psychology? Because either you're for it and you have to, and that might include accepting a lot of these poisonous, toxic manosphere ideas, or you're against it. But he's sort of trying to have his cake and eat it too, which is the meta-ironic thing to do. And it's like Devo, because it's the idea that when we evolved to develop the ability to speak, we became less. And this is the different function of these different kinds of philosophies about evolution, right? That some people misuse time and history to prop up fascism, to prop up things that hurt minorities, to prop up things that hurt those in danger, that prop up racism and the primacy and the Anglo-Saxon glory of it all. And that's the people who they're fighting against. But it's funny because you can fight against it by making this claim, the claim that Devo made, that we de-evolved and that we really just should have stayed in the trees. Because then we'd be living in the now. But then we wouldn't have music, so screw that. Next song is called Globe Earth. It's a instrumental song. According to some interview I read with him, it's against flat earthers, saying he's a globe earther. That's fine. A little bit more craft work than Devo in terms of the way it sounds here. This leads into the song Ain't No Thief. Again, we're in the weird zone of where he's now commenting on himself. So about 3/4 of the album is about the problems of the world, the problems of small men who think that they're big because they imagine themselves as some kind of evolved primate. And then the other quarter is him commenting on himself being a scumbag. And that's really in the welfare jazz mode. This song is cool kind of disco drums, a 4 on the floor, great wah-wah work. The spoken word reminds me a little bit of Jello Biafra in the way that he's singing. And it's this whole thing about this jacket that he stole and a lighter that he stole and the person calling him out on it and him denying it, even though there's no way he didn't actually do it. It's like a Shrimp City jacket. I don't know what Shrimp City is. I know 2 things. There's no such thing as free shrimp. And 2, I would love to go to Shrimp City because I enjoy shrimp very much. But it's this funny thing because we can say this is just him coming to terms with the fact that he's a liar. I read some interview with him from Genius where he said that when he was a speed freak, he would do this all the time. He would do something, very clearly be the person who did it, and then lie about doing it. We're all trying to find the person who did this, like this kind of desire to the anger that some people feel when people don't believe them when they're lying. And this is something I've had to deal with a lot in my life. People who lie to you and then get angry with you for not believing them. So it could be about that, about him specifically. But again, in the larger context of this album, we're talking about a lot of liars, and a lot of crooks, and a lot of scam artists and grifters. That's what a lot of this pseudo-evolutionary thing is. That's what a lot of this manosphere stuff is, this toxic masculinity. So in a way, he's talking about himself, but he could also be talking about Boris Johnson and the Brexit people, right? Who said that something happened when they knew it was a lie, or the big lie about the election being false, right? Like, they know they're lying, we have them on tape saying that they're lying, and then they're mad at you for pointing out that they're lying. So this is both a micro and a macro song. It's great. Next song is called Big Boy, featuring Jason Williamson. Listen, I didn't look this up, but I'm pretty sure this is the guy from Sleaford Mods. So correct me if I'm wrong. Or tell me, ding ding, you're a winner, not a punk rock loser, in the comments. This is kind of like a bluesy, folksy song. Like it's stylistically, it doesn't fit in with the rest of the album because it doesn't sound like in that Devo mode of the great marriage of synthesizers and guitars and weird political commentary. Kind of a bluesy, folksy thing, like a groove. Reminds me a little bit of 5 to 1 by The Doors. And what I like about this, though, is it's somebody constantly telling you what a big boy they are for paying rent, for like having an apartment and having a TV. And I like that because I'm sick of people talking about adulting. This is one of these words I don't like. Just people just being super proud of themselves for just functioning. And it's not the case. You're not a big boy because you have a television or because you can rent an apartment or because you have a house in the suburbs. You're a big boy by your actions and your sense of accountability. What I assume is Sleaford Mods guy comes in and does sort of almost like a rap thing like he tends to do, unless it's someone who just sounds like him. talking about how his tummy is better than anyone else's six-pack. And this is really weird because the last thing I watched on YouTube before I listened to this album was a comedian, a female comedian, who was talking about the fact that she is now attracted to men with bellies because that indicates that they can earn money and take care, that, you know, if he eats, then we eat. That was her joke. It's fairly funny. And that the fact that she wanted a man who was really in good shape led her to dating physical trainers, which meant that she dated people who were broke. Now, I don't agree with the whole kind of transactional nature of love and all that. I'll include a description to that comedian in the description. But it's just kind of a funny thing because she was making this joke about this thing, and then this guy is actually taking on the personality of a boring, blobby, middle-aged guy who's a big boy, and that's why he needs a big girl. It's good. It's an interesting song. I like this stylistic break in the end. Next song is called ADD. Talking about ADD, attention deficit disorder. Full admission here, I probably have ADD. I don't know. I was never diagnosed with it. You probably tell by the way I do my videos, the way I talk, and the way I think. It's resulted that, like, when I wrote my thesis, you know, I had to write whatever 400-page thesis on 17th century philosophy and theater and stuff. The way that I would write is I would build in 4-hour blocks of time to get 1 hour of work because I knew I would just be on Facebook or rebelscum.com or wherever the hell I'd be, or eBombs World, wherever the hell I'd be back in those days, that I knew I wouldn't be able to actually focus on myself enough. So I like it. I like that this is a song, according to some notes that, again, I read on Genius, it's about his inability to do menial tasks. I like this because he's presenting himself as a bad guy again, which he tends to do. But he's not saying he's a bad boy. He's sort of saying like he wants to be a better boy, but like he doesn't know how because of this deficiency. Musically, this is one of the most Devo-like songs, kind of a 1-2-1-2 drum machine. Great guitar over synthesizers again. Just post-punk music is the best rock music. I'm just going to say that again. Post-punk music is the best rock music. Classic rock was wonderful, but then punk destroying the hold that it had, and then post-punk being so vibrant and filled with so many different styles. I did a video about it a couple years ago. It's like post-impressionism is so much better than impressionism, just for that very same reason. It's just great. I really like the song, cool kind of rhythmic beeps, and he says at some point, I hope they replace my brain with a computer. I have felt that way at times. Again, he's being meta-ironic. I think he's partly proud of his working process. He's proud of his idiosyncrasies. He's proud of his weaknesses. But Human Error is another interlude. I don't edit this either. Viagra, man. Another interlude. He's doing I think he's using a thing called a chaos pad, which is this thing that actually Radiohead used a lot around 20 years ago. It makes like these wish sounds. It sounds a little bit like a DJ, but it's a little bit more digital. And that is followed up in the next song, Return to Monkey, spelled without a Y. Very, very Devo mode here. Guitars and synths, punky guitars with new wave synthesizers. Smash them together, you have this beautiful thing. And it's all about this same theme. This just ties everything in a bow. This is like part 2 to Troglodyte. Leave society and be a monkey. It reminds me a little bit too, the bass work reminds me a little bit of the song Sabotage by Beastie Boys. I don't know, but it's all over and over again about leave society, be a monkey. But it's just the reason that you should leave society in this song, which is spoken through an ironic register, meaning the singer believes other things than what he's saying, talks about how his neighbors are bad and very xenophobic and then very conspiratorial, talking about how his neighbors are planning against him with the government and the 5G, and that what we just need to do is just collect some sticks and then we'll be, very anti-vaxxer. One of the few times on the album where anti-vax is there. And it's really a good closing thesis statement to the album about this kind of person. This kind of person who believes that we have degenerated and that we need to be more in line with the natural order of things, which would put me at the top because I'm so smart and I see through all the conspiracies. Then the ending's interesting. There's this little spoken word bit about a murder in Japan, which, given the news that there was a murder in Japan of the former prime minister, is a bit weird, but whatever, coincidence. Coincidence. And talking about how good the cleaning people were at cleaning up the carpet after someone was decapitated. And then we get to this very ending with this guy just saying, they're killing each other. They're killing each other. And I get it. That the idea is that what if we succeeded? What if we succeeded in going back to the time when we hadn't evolved into the humans who spoke? The humans that invented woke culture, right? Well, the implication is that we would just end up making the same mistakes. We would become the monkeys who would kill each other. On the cover of the album, which has these 9 images, like one is like a snorting cocaine, and then there's like a weird fish thingy. One of the images is the obelisk from 2001. I think 2001, the Stanley Kubrick movie based on the Arthur C. Clarke book, is very much thematically linked to this album. Another very confusing work, 2001, but the beginning has apes sitting around until they see an obelisk. The obelisk, I think, I'm not an expert. I don't know, go watch Patrick Williams or something if you want to check my work. I believe the obelisk refers to human progress and the evolution of humans to become something more, something that would become something spacefaring. And just seeing the obelisk then leads them to go crazy and start using bones as tools and start killing themselves. That human cruelty is a byproduct of our evolution. And so even if we were to become monkeys, we would just be monkeys who kill each other. The final clue given on this album is if you listen very carefully with your headphones, you will hear the also spoke Zarathustra timpanis. That's the beginning of 2001. Bum, 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 bum. Right? The Richard Strauss piece of music. I think it's Richard Strauss. Correct me if it's not Richard Strauss. But the bum, 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 you hear that in the background. So it all starts over again with our ignominy. So, de-evolution, evolutionary psychology, all mixed in with this great soundtrack, just this wonderful music, this absolutely awesome music. Really, really, really enjoyed this album. Once again, I like to remind all of you rock is dead jerks that rock is not dead. You're just not listening to the right stuff. It's not Maroon 5. They're not the only thing. These are my Patreons, so I want to thank them for sponsoring me. They gave me the money to buy the Viagra Boys' last album, and now they've given me enough money to buy this new album. So that's what I do with most of the money that I get. I buy music. I bought Donda yesterday. True. Oh, now I'm out of focus. Damn it. There I am. Okay. Tell me what you think about the album. What do you think about this evolutionary psychology stuff? Do you also agree this is the best? And also, what you think this is? You think I sewed this on? It's silver tape, baby. All right. Till next time. There's the camera.